Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a fresh episode of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok, a podcast of, for, and by the millennials. I'm your host, Shlok Ramchandran.
And I'm co-host Tanvi Lad. As you can sense, there is a lot of excitement between the both of us today because for two reasons. One is that we have got new mics, so our audio quality is going to be on point going ahead. And the second reason, of course, badminton is back. Live badminton is back.
Absolutely, Tanvi. For the past 2 weeks, I've been glued to the Star Sports Network and I've been watching every match. I've also been a part-time pundit and been tweeting a lot. So what do we have in store for today's episode, Tanvi?
Well, I think it's time we assess the performance, play a little bit of a, like I feel like a teacher or a professor who's going to present a report card of the results of our Indian contingent. Won't be too harsh, of course, because of course they've gotten back to competing after a long time. But yeah, I think it's time we assess their performance, their fitness levels, getting into the next season.
Yes, I feel like a Sky Sports pundit. I feel like John Dykes, and I'm going to be, judging everyone today. But yeah, jokes apart, today we've got a lot lined on the show today. Starting off with everything that happened with the quarantine, the players who finals, the players' performances, especially Victor, Marines, and obviously the Indian performance as well. So stay tuned. For now, we'll go into a quick break where Amit will share some wisdom with you guys. Welcome back. You're listening to the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. So Tanvi, where do we begin?
Well, that's a tough question. I think let's just go back a couple of weeks. I remember the entire Indian contingent and all the players on the circuit, they were super excited. Everyone was posting pictures of sitting at the airports. Yes, we're flying to Bangkok after a long time, almost a year of being off the circuit. And then, of course, the 14-day quarantine in Thailand where everyone was restricted to their rooms, trying to be as innovative as possible with room workouts, HIIT circuits and wall practice in the room to kill time. That wasn't an easy phase, of course.
First of all, kudos to Badminton Association of Thailand and BWF for pulling this off. It wasn't easy. But yes, they did pull it off, apart from a few cases here and there, which happened especially with our Indian players. To start off in the first tournament, Saina Nehwal, HS Pranoy and Parupalli Kashyap were tested positive, only to turn out that they were false positive just because they had been diagnosed with COVID and they had antibodies within them. But luckily for them and for Indian fans, they were allowed to play in the next day and the walkover wasn't given.
Oh yeah, that was quite a bit of drama, I must say, because after having served the entire quarantine period and having tested negative, with the multiple tests that were being conducted almost every day, to test positive a day before playing your match and then spending 24 hours in a hospital in Bangkok, it mustn't have been a pleasant experience. A lot of stress. You're playing the next day as it is. You have the butterflies in your stomach, and then to add to it something like this just to throw you off the hook. I remember Pranoy and Saina tweeting about it as well. But yeah, thankfully. Intervention from the BAI and the BWF ensured that they were able to compete the next day. But yeah, regarding their performance, I think the entire drama did take its toll. What do you think?
Apart from that, I think Sai Praneeth wasn't very fortunate. He did end up getting COVID and he was withdrawn out of the tournament. So yeah, bad luck for him. He couldn't go and compete in the second tournament. And unfortunately, Srikanth was collateral damage because he was sharing a room with Sai Praneeth there, and he was looking in tremendous touch. He dispatched his first round opponent with a lot of ease, and we were really looking forward to him, playing in the second round. He was playing Anders Antonsen, for that matter, and he got a walkover. But yeah, Srikanth in the first tournament also good first round victory over Saurabh Verma. Couldn't play because of a calf strain. So Srikanth, we expected a lot, and he was actually playing well. So, the news I got from Bangkok was that Srikanth was in absolute stellar form. But yes, unfortunate Tanvi not being able to play those two tournaments.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that players are going to have to deal with. I mean, going ahead, yes, badminton is back, everyone's excited, but the flip side is the multiple COVID tests. I remember the players complaining about the amount of plastic being generated with every test, with the food that's being delivered to their hotel rooms, everything. I mean, Ashwini Ponappa was at pains to mention that if we don't get COVID, die of COVID, we'll probably die of just the damage that we're doing to the environment is something that is concerning. So that was something that's a new pandemic that we may have to deal with going ahead. But yeah, I mean, with regards to what you mentioned about Srikanth having to pull out because his roommate Sai Praneeth testing positive. These are things that you go all the way. You've done the quarantine. You're actually playing well, and yes, Srikanth did have to pull out of the first tournament that happened in Thailand because of a calf strain, and then he gets into the next tournament, plays well in round one, and then has to give a walkover in round two because his roommate tests positive. I mean, absolutely unfortunate, but such unprecedented, such are the times. So we are going to have to deal with situations like this going ahead.
Yeah, he was in brilliant form. I remember watching him play against Thai boy Thamasi in Sithikom. And Sithikom absolutely had no chance, and I was really hoping that Srikanth would go deeper into the tournament. But this raises a big question. Why not go and opt for single rooms? I mean, all the Danish players were staying alone. It's unfortunate for Srikanth that because it wasn't his fault and he still ends up being pulled out of the tournament. So maybe this is a learning lesson for all of the Indian players. It's a little more money, but I do think in times like this, it is worth it that you have your result in your own hands. What say Tanvi on that?
Absolutely. I think these are some lessons that we're going to have to learn as we get along, because I mean, these are things that, new situations, and I think we're going to learn as we progress. This was, of course, the first tournament back. So, yeah, I'm sure the players are now used to multiple COVID tests being conducted, and the new normal is what the players have to get used to. So, but that being said, I mean, what do you have to say about the performance of our men's singles contingent? I mean, they've all been training, through the lockdown in their respective hometowns, trying to be innovative with, their fitness regimen and whatever they can manage at their local training centers once academies did open. And then we did see, the whole bunch coming back to the National Center in Hyderabad. Unfortunately, a couple of them contracted COVID and had to, deal with that. And then just a couple of days of practice and then back to competing. So it's not been easy for our men's singles contingent. But what do you have to say about it?
The first tournament, which was the Yonex Thailand Open, would have been tough for all of our players because none of the players actually played the tournament in Denmark. So I assumed everybody would be a little tentative, and that showed in the first tournament. And gradually, a lot of them did play at a better level at the Toyota Thailand Open, which was the second tournament. Kashyap was struggling with an injury. Saurabh Verma, didn't actually stand a chance against Ginting Anthony in the first round. So the men's singles performance in the first tournament at the Yonex Thailand Open wasn't extremely satisfying. Srikanth obviously pulled out. Saurabh Verma lost to Kidambi Srikanth in the first in the Yonex Thailand Open. So yeah, I mean, in the first tournament, things weren't looking really good. Samir Verma also didn't have a very good outing. HS also, though he won a game against Lee Zijia, he lost, but everybody was looking a little tentative. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up pretty well. Moving into the second week at the Toyota Thailand Open 2021, we saw Samir Verma really shine bright. Yes, he didn't. He put up a dismal show in the first week, but we saw him come into his own and pull off a brilliant victory against Lee Zijia in the second week. He went on to dismiss Rasmus Gemke of Denmark in the pre-quarters, and unfortunately lost out, in a very, very close encounter in the second week. But hats off. I think Anders was a tough opponent to deal with, but he pushed him to 20-20 in the third, which, it was he really lost out by the skin of his teeth. But he's proved that his level is back. He's there. And really looking forward to some good results from him in the coming months. But I really have my doubts about Sai Praneeth's fitness levels. I felt that stamina wise he was falling short, and he's now down with COVID. So really need to see how he comes back from that bout.
He didn't really stand a chance in the Onyx Thailand Open against Kantaphon. I thought Kantaphon was just too good, was much faster, was much quicker, much stronger. But yeah, coming back to what you said about Samir, he just looked so sharp in the second tournament. And it is such a delight to see a well-playing Samir Verma, a super sharp Samir Verma. And I also remember Gillian Clark in commentary saying that, he's so much better than the rank being portrayed right now. So lots and lots to hope from Samir Verma in the future for sure. But moving on to one of our favorites, HS Pranoy. Again, came back from COVID. Not easy. He just had COVID about a month back before he flew down to Thailand. Played a pretty decent match against Lee Zijia, won the first set, even though he lost the second and third at the Onyx Thailand Open. But in Toyota Thailand Open, he went on to beat Jonathan Christie of Indonesia in an absolute thriller of a match. Third game 23-21, I think it was. And he played a 70-minute match, and that was so heartening to see that even in such challenging times with his body, he managed to win that. What do you say about HS's performance, Tanvi?
Absolutely. I think, yes, tournament one, the Thailand Open was, he did play well, probably not at his best, but in the Toyota Thailand Open, I remember watching him, he was 2017 down against Jonathan Christie, and he dived to, pick up one of his smashes and grabbed his shoulder. It was, we were all debating whether it was his rib that was hurting, because he's been complaining of a painful rib for a while post-COVID. But the mic on the court side seemed to pick up that he had dislocated his shoulder, and probably it had come out of the socket and gone back in. So that was quite concerning. But a quick, spray from the painkiller from the physio or by the court side, and he was back. And he managed to win that game by the skin of his teeth. So I think the break kind of helped him. But yeah, he did. He went on to lose to Darren Liu in the next round. But yeah, I can see his level definitely coming back. Probably COVID has taken its toll, and lung wise and lung capacity wise and aerobic capacity wise, I think he just needs to recover a little bit. But that's just a matter of time, I guess.
The one thing common between both of these players who did well in the second tournament, which was the Toyota Thailand Open between Samir and Pranoy, was that both were looking extremely happy on court, which I couldn't feel when somebody like Sai was playing on court. He just didn't feel like he was enjoying the sport, and that is what I felt was one of the biggest factors. HS and Samir just were enjoying being on court, which makes such a difference. And then you look at the way Victor Axelsen played, who was just an absolute level above everyone. Nobody stood a chance against him apart from Ginting, where he had in the first tournament, he had a slight lead of 8-4 in the third. Nobody absolutely had a chance against him. But Victor just also looked so eager and so happy to play on court, and he was at a different level. I was absolutely speechless with the way Victor played in both those tournaments, actually.
Absolutely. I think, like you mentioned, it's a bit concerning because, Sai at present is, India's hope he's almost made the cut for the Olympics, men's singles, as the men's singles shuttler from India. So I would really hope that he gets his fitness and his mind together, and really puts up a good show in the upcoming tournaments, which are also part of the Olympic qualification. But coming to Victor, I think, just go back a couple of months. He's had an ankle surgery in September, and to see him, his rehab has been on point. To see him play at this level, he's dismissed all his opponents, whether it was Enkalong, whether it was from Hong Kong, whether it was Ginting. He's beaten everyone, and most of them, like you mentioned, in straight games. So besides Anthony Ginting, so I think he's really proved that he's the number one, right? Of course, we had Momota pull out due to COVID just a few days before the event started. So that did Momota is usually his nemesis, like we mentioned. But yeah, Momota apart, I think he's proved his dominance, and looking forward to him winning for the third week in the row at the World Tour Finals, which is coming up this week.
Yeah, he's definitely the man to beat right now, Victor. And I'm sure Momota would be itching to come back and take that title away from him.
To add to that, he's just become a father as well. So I think, yes, personal life, professional life, everything on point, and it's definitely showing on court as well.
All's good in the hood for Victor Axelsen. Okay, so before we move on to our next event, we would like to wish a speedy recovery to Parupalli Kashyap. He pulled out of both of his tournaments, so we wish him, all the very best, and we hope he comes back very soon. So Tanvi, moving on to your event, an event you specialize, women's singles, Tanvi. Okay, so I'm not going to say anything here. It is your event. Go for it. Now, what did you feel? Apart from Sadhana Marine's brilliance,
Well,
what were your takeaways?
there's a lot to say. Well, I think women's singles is today. I've never enjoyed women's singles more than at present, because of the variety that we're getting to see in the styles of play, in the age groups. So we have this youngster from Korea, Ense Young, who's I remember, going back, to pre-COVID times, she has jumped from world number 200 to world number 8 in a span of 6 months. So that just goes to prove, and she's 18, Shlok, she's 18 years old. So she has her entire career ahead. She's got this calm demeanor on court. She can, terrific ability to soak up pressure. And she's playing against some experienced players when she's played Ratchanok in this tournament, who's an All England champion, who's a world beater. She's been high up there in the top 5 for the longest time. She played against Taijo Ying. She played against Carolina Marin, Sung Ji-hyun. She's played against the best in the women's singles circuit at present. And she's proven that she is this prodigy to look out for in the coming months.
She's absolutely a coach's delight, right? The way Anse Young plays. Proper footwork, very good length on the shuttle, extremely good basics. She's just such a fun player to watch. I remember watching her in Mongolia in 2018. And even though she lost there because the courts were extremely fast and didn't actually suit her style, she was back on the training courts the next day. So yeah, Anse Young, huge future. From Anse Young moving to a seasoned pro, Taijo Ying, again, brilliant player to watch. Had that spectacular win over Ratchanok in the semi-finals, saving 3 match points. What did you feel about Taijo Ying's comeback on the tour?
Well, I think Taijo Ying is rightly called the queen of world badminton. She has been ranked number 1 for the longest time now, in terms of fitness, in terms of footwork, in terms of her array of strokes. She is undisputably the number 1. But having said that, I feel, physically she was not at her best, not at her peak. She wasn't catching the shuttle as high as she probably was, at the All England just pre-lockdown. So yeah, I feel she's lost a little bit of her physical, maybe her speed and agility needs to come up a little bit. But yeah, she's definitely in all aspects right up there, and she's here to stay in the run-up to the Olympics.
Before we move on to the brilliance of Carolina Marin, I just want to go and go into the Indian angle here. Sindhu, a lot was said about coming into this tournament. She was training in London. Obviously, she was with the Gatorade Institute of Science. She thought that she needed this break. I saw her match against Mia Blichfeld in the first tournament, which I felt she was pretty okay. I felt physically she was looking really good, but technically or skill-wise, she wasn't up to the mark. But yeah, again, outlast in the second against Rachnok. What were your thoughts on Sindhu's performance?
Well, I think, Sindhu, just going back a couple of months to the lockdown, she did mention that, she was maintaining herself physically, running, around the apartment and things like that. Her dad did mention that physically he's ensured that she's maintained her level. But yes, of course, coming back onto court is a different ball game. And once travel opened up, she did move to England and was training under Rajiv Usif and sparring with the likes of Toby Penty and a couple others at the national centre. So I'm sure she had a good group to train with in England. But that's something, I experienced it myself when I was living in England for a bit, that the Indian style of play, we just rely so much on our routines and our the amount of court time that we spend doing a lot of the on court drills, which in England the focus is a lot physical, a lot of time in the gym, a lot of focus on strength and power, and even their game style, it's a lot of power, a lot of a lot of the flat parallel play, which is good in a way, but we kind of need a combination of both, because Indians are technically very, very sound. We have a great net game, and that's what Sindhu also relies on, because she has a big smash. Everything relies on a good net game, and I felt her net wasn't quite up there. We've definitely seen a decline in form post her win at the World Championships. And I'm hoping to see her, really come into her own. Just a couple of weeks of maybe tune up and being in her familiar surroundings, training under the coach that she's been used to training under, and just being with her team back home. I think that may just do her some good.
If there is any silver lining, Sindhu along with Srikanth have qualified for the World Tour Finals, which is going to start tomorrow. So maybe a couple of weeks training with Park Tae-sung, who's the Korean coach with them. You never know. Sindhu and Srikanth might, have an ace up their sleeve and, do something at the World Tour Finals. Moving from one Indian to another. Okay, this is a tricky one, right? We are looking at the performance of Saina Nehwal. Again, somebody who's had COVID, had to go to the hospital, false negative test, false positive test. It's a tricky one for us to judge also, but what were your impressions on Saina?
Well, Saina has always been known to be a fighter. She, coming into she did have a bout of COVID back in India, just before she left for Thailand, got in a few practice sessions, gets to Thailand, does the quarantine period, and just the day before her match, there's news that she's been quarantined in a hospital. So yes, she had to deal with that stress. She did put up a picture on Instagram of her physio giving her a head massage at the end of a long day. So yeah, she wasn't at her best getting into the event. Definitely looked quite slow on court. If I can be critical, we've seen Saina, the way she moves, her anticipation, her power. She's a fighter and someone really tough to deal with on court. She doesn't let the shuttle touch down, which clearly wasn't, she wasn't at her best, and it was there to see. The commentators were commenting about them being skeptical of her regaining full fitness, because of course age isn't on her side, and she will have to put in the work to get back on track.
I mean, she lost against two Thai players. In the first tournament, she lost to Busnen, and in the second tournament, she lost to Rachanok, who also went on to beat PV Sindhu. But if there's one thing which I've learned over the years in Indian badminton, is that never count Saina Nehwal out. We know the road is very tough for her to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. But if there's anybody who's got the mental strength to do it, it's undoubtedly Saina. So I won't be counting her out yet. I still, if I have my money to put on, I'll still put on my money on Saina to qualify for the Olympics and bring her A game back.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing to sum up the performance of our men's singles and women's singles contingent. I feel that they're all champions in their own right. They've proved that they are at the level, that they're all competing. There is no doubt about their level or them being at that level. So I think, sport is sometimes very harsh. And COVID has just made things harsher and tougher for us athletes. But, all things said, I think everyone's assessed where they are physically, mentally, emotionally. And I think it's just a matter of time before everyone gets back on track and we start seeing better results in the coming months.
Phew, बहुत पंडितरी हो गई. Let's take a break on this one. On the other side of the break, we will talk about the performance of the Indian players at the paired events and also discuss how well other pairs were doing in the paired events. So stay tuned. You guys are listening to the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. Moving on from single events to paired events, Tanvi, which event do you want to start off with first?
Well, let's start off with you being the most experienced in men's doubles. So let's begin with men's doubles. What do you have to say about? Chirag Satwik. The results are there to see, but
first of all, in a very long time, we had non-Indonesian players winning back-to-back titles. Chin Lee Wang and Lee Yang won both titles and with a lot of ease. And they were just too powerful, too fast. And I remember this pair was just formed about 18 months back. Because Chin Lee Wang was playing with another partner, Li Yang was playing with Lee Ju Hui, and there were some doubts about if they would actually, make it at the top, make it at the highest level. But watching them play today, especially Chin Lee Wang, it looks like he's lost a little weight. He's hitting so hard, and Li Yang's quality is always, right up there. He's a Super Series winner, and I'm telling you, Tanvi, this combination is the combination to watch out. They beat Ehsan Setewan pretty easily. They beat So Yu Week and Aaron Chia pretty easily. So yeah, just like Victor, how he was heads and shoulders above everyone in the men's singles department, Li Yang and Chin Lee Wang were a step above every single pair, which is very difficult because men doubles is a very tricky competition. You've got 8 to 10 really good pairs. Moving on from that, let's go on to the Indian angle. I'm not going to talk about the fancied pair first. I'm going to talk about my ex-partner and his new partnership with Dhruv Kapila. So it was Arjun MR and Dhruv Kapila's first Super 1000 tournaments, and I was pretty impressed. But I'm not going to bring out the technical point of view. I'm just going to ask you, and what were your feelings of just seeing them on court? What were your first reactions?
Well, like you mentioned, young pair, unfancied, but to see them on court, and I think the PBL has really done Dhruv a lot of good. He's playing with a lot of ease, nothing to lose, something similar to what we see with the youngsters in the IPL. The young brigade, they have nothing to lose and they actually want to go out there and prove themselves. So that's what we saw Dhruv Kapila bring to the table. And of course, your ex-partner, MR Arjun, the perfect athlete, as I've always called him. So I was pretty impressed with their performance in the events. Of course, they couldn't make it to the quarterfinal stage, but they did have a good win. So
Dhruv was like Washington Sundar at GABA. He was at so much ease and he was playing with that attitude. So it was great to watch Dhruv play. Served match point against Ong Yu Sin and TOAE, who made the quarterfinals in both tournaments. So there's a lot of promise. Was slightly disappointed in the second tournament with them, especially in their performance against Ben Lane and Sean Wendy.
Yeah.
But again, lots to learn. They are still a very young pair. Dhruv is just a teenager, or he's just turned 20 now. So Arjun is now the senior partner, and I remember having this chat with Arjun pre-tournament and during the tournament. I feel Arjun is also in a very good space right now. He told me that they were also funded by the tops for this tournament. So coming from financially, he was in a very secured place, and that showed with their performances. So I've got a lot of hopes. Not like they're going to win a Super Series anytime soon, but I do think they will break into the top 40 in the next 3-4 months for sure. Moving on from them, the best Indian athletes on show, according to me, Chirag Shetty and Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy. I'm just going to put it out there. Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy is the best player under pressure in the world right now, along with Anse Young.
Absolutely. I mean, he just seems to enjoy his badminton so much. You can't really tell whether he's playing, a first round or a semi-final or a final of a Super Series event. You can't tell whether he's in practice or he's playing, a final match. He just seems to soak up pressure so well, and he's having a ball of a time on court. I mean, in the PBL, we've seen him with his celebratory dances, but yeah, of course, he's even on tour, he's really enjoying his men's doubles, his mix. We saw him shine in his mixed doubles performance with Ashwini Ponappa with that brilliant win over the Malaysians. But yeah, I think Chirag and Satvik in the run up to the Olympics are definitely my number 2 pair to watch out for after the pair you mentioned. What do you have to say?
Strong performances at the Yonex Thailand Open. Good victory over Kim Ki-jung and Leong Dae from a game down. I was a little disappointed with the way they played in terms of tactics against Ehsan and Setevan. I was pretty vocal about it on Twitter. I felt that they played to the Indonesian strength, and they lost a very close match, but they were still playing to the strengths. I still, this is still very important to me that we need a good, experienced doubles coach for Chirag and Satvik to push on to the next level and to go on to become contenders. I've got absolutely nothing with the current coaching staff, but they need somebody like a Matthias Bo. They need somebody with the wealth of experience who's played at the highest level, who brings this X factor to this game. Moving on from the Yonex Thailand Open to the Toyota Thailand Open, where they, were the defending champions and played the semi-finals. Again, impressive victories. A tough outing in the first round against fellow competitors Manu Atri and Sumit Reddy, but they won that. Big victory over Choi Soi Kyu and Seo Jae Sung in straight games. Straight games victory over Ong Yusin and Teo. Again, very disappointed with the way they played against Aaron Chi and Su Week. I thought they were the better pair. And I'm pretty sure both of them will also be disappointed just because of the fact that they knew they could have won this also. But yeah, lots and lots to expect from them. I feel, we've spoken to Chirag earlier in the season on how he got into a routine and, what he's worked on. And it surely looked like that on court. He right from the first match, he looked, he didn't look tentative at all. And he was right up there. So great job, Chirag, on the work you've done during the lockdown. And obviously Satvik, being Satvik, just I hope that they continue to stay injury free. And there's a big future for them.
But Shlok, what do you have to say about Satvik? I mean, we all know how physically demanding competitive badminton at the Super Series level is. What do you have to say about Satvik competing in 2 events?
So right now there are only 4 players in the world who are in the top 15 in both events. And I'm talking about male players specifically. So there's Yuta Watanabe, the Japanese. Then we've got Marcus Ellis, who's number 2. You've got Satvik, number 3, and then you've got Seo Jae Sung of Korea. And it is difficult, right? I do feel at some point of time he will have to stick to one event, because physically going into the latter stages, it takes a toll. I would prefer that Satvik would play with just one event, but just the fact that we do not have that kind of depth in mixed doubles yet. So he has to play 2 tournaments, but a similar point was raised by Morten Frost and Gillian Clark during the tournament that not with Satvik, but with Seo, who was playing 2 events and he lost 2 semi-finals. You're being jack of both trades and you're not being master of none here. You've seen that with Dechapol. He's moved completely into mixed doubles. Absolutely superb 2 titles. You see a lot of players are just specializing. Praveen Jordan is not playing men doubles. He's only playing mixed doubles. So I do feel after a point, Satvik has a big decision, or the coaching staff has a big decision to make. And I think he should stick to one event, or he needs to become much more fitter than what he is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but from a mixed doubles perspective, I think Satvik and Ashwini are today the only pair that's actually shining. And from Ashwini's perspective, with her women doubles not really shaping up, the way she would like it to, her focus is on mixed doubles. So it's a bit of a comedy of errors that's going on right now.
So right now, even with when Sikki and Ashwini play, it looks like both of them have become more of mixed doubles players, which wasn't the case earlier. Ashwini and Sikki both started off as predominantly women doubles players, but just because of we don't have the lack of depth and possibly not good sparring partners for them, so the women doubles is not kind of improving for them. But mixed doubles, I also felt Sikki Reddy and Sumit Reddy did a fairly decent job. They had close matches. They lost in 3 games to a Malaysian pair who went on to the quarterfinals. I do not know if this is going to be a permanent pair or Pranav Jerry Chopra is going to come back. There are still a lot of question marks on that. But I do think that their priorities right now in mixed doubles, and I was very impressed with the way Satvik Ashwini played again. 3 games, lost to Dechapol and Sapsiri. So a lot. But like they won in the first tournament. They lost to Tak Ching Chang, the Hong Kong China pair, which he should have won. So you see these ups and downs with their performances sometimes. But yeah, they need to rack up more wins like they did in the second tournament to be considered as good as how Chirag Satvik are considered and feared in the circuit.
Absolutely. So how does it look like? I mean, from a paired event perspective, in the run up to the Olympics, we definitely have Chirag and Satvik right up there as India's number one pair. Looking for a podium finish, of course, but like you mentioned, we do need, there is some scope for work, which is actually in a way good. We don't want to peak too early, so we have a couple of months before the Olympics, and a foreign coach or having someone like Matthias Bo from Denmark actually come in and work as a mentor, come coach, especially technically with Satvik and Chirag, will do the boys good. But from a mixed doubles and women doubles perspective, how do you think we are placed?
I mean, women doubles has been the Achilles heels for a very long time now. I do feel that we need to invest a little more. Apart from Ashwini and Sikki, you need to look at 18-year-olds. You need to look at 19-year-olds who are going to go out there and going to win matches for you. So there was this, I don't know if you noticed, there was this young pair from Malaysia called M. Tina and Pearly Tan, who went on to play the semi-finals. 20-year-olds. But that is the kind of money Badminton Association of Malaysia has invested in them. So now Malaysia has got a backup, and in the next 2 years, I'm pretty sure they are going to be the number one pair.
Yeah,
I do not see anyone in India really. It's a big thing going to a super series and winning a quarterfinal, semi-final, even without a depleted Japanese squad, mind you. But still, I was very impressed with the way M. Tina and Pearly Tan played. There are a lot of 20, 21-year-olds who are doing well. But it's just not happening with women doubles in India. I don't know, you need a change of system. You need to get more players, better scouting, more exposure. I have absolutely no idea. I actually have a fair idea, but I don't know if the association is thinking on the same lines. But in mixed doubles, you still have a little. You have Satvik. I hope they do not push Chirag Shetty into mixed doubles. Pranav Chopra is on the late 20s now. So I'm a little more concerned about women doubles than mixed doubles, but also it is an area of concern. Also, mixed doubles is also an area of concern. Like how Arjun and Dhruv have stepped up in men doubles, there isn't anybody who is stepping up in women's and mixed doubles. Kitna load doge tum Satvik ko?
Yeah.
You need somebody to share the load, right?
Yeah, I think I mean, we need to get something. We need to change something or get something right. I mean, that's how it started with singles. You have one win and then success begets success. So, once it clicks, then the formula is working. Is when you can keep reproducing it. But at present, yes, like you mentioned, either we need a change of technical coach or we need someone to I really feel it's a lot to do with experience, because even at the Premier Badminton League, women doubles is something that's not given importance. Ashwini Ponnappa was at pains to mention that the youngsters get to rub shoulders with some of the stalwarts in their respective events at an event like the Premier Badminton League, and not having women doubles. Definitely, the younger girls are losing out on an opportunity playing those matches, which the leagues are meant to give you that combination of fun, pressure, all in one, which prepares you for the world circuit. And not having women doubles as an event at all is concerning.
It's Definitely hurting Indian badminton right now. Indian badminton definitely needs to consider women doubles being a part of PBL. If you go on in the last 3 seasons, just tell me the number of female players who played women doubles and mixed doubles in all of those matches. You will hardly see anybody apart from Sikki and Ashwini. But if you look at men doubles, you look at other events, you've got Priyanshu Rajawats playing, you've got Mithun Manjunath playing, Satvik got his big break, Chirag got his big break. But when are the women doubles players going to get their big break? You've seen Rutaparna Panda now there for a very long time. Why hasn't she played any match yet? I mean, it is why? I mean, there are so many whys. The current junior national champions, why weren't they part of any team? Why wasn't Tanisha Krashto, who's also supposed to be one of the bigger names, Simran Singhi, Ritika Thakkar, Teresa Jolly? Why aren't they part of any of the teams and why aren't they getting this kind of exposure? There is definitely something wrong, and the association, the federation needs to figure this out. And only then we will start seeing some results in the women doubles. Otherwise, we are going to struggle in the Uber Cup and Sudhirman Cup in the years to come.
Yeah, I think on that note, I think we've put it out there. We hope to see some changes in the upcoming season of the Premier Badminton League, and hopefully, women doubles comes up the curve in the months to come.
On that note, we come to an end of another episode, which was our special recap of the Thailand Open of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to all of them on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow IVM on their social media handles, that is at the rate IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, please do. You'll find me on Instagram and Twitter with the handle of SHLOKH95.
And you can write to me on at tanvilad93 on Instagram and Twitter.
Until then, ciao. We shall be back very soon with another fresh episode of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. Good night, everyone.